The dark atmosphere of an era when the cold wind blew gently and street lamps danced with their dim light left deep imprints on memory. In the murky evenings of the 1960s and 1970s, behind a series of murders drifting between crime and uncertainty, there existed an unknown face accompanied by messages that pushed the limits of the mind. In this narrative, built upon detailed documents and meticulously compiled data that bear the traces of those terrifying days, the cold marks left by the Zodiac Killer and his unfathomable behavior are examined. This account, drawn from records of real events and interwoven with the psychological fabric of that time, resembles a journey that touches the dark corners of the human soul in every line. In the dark streets of the city, the echoing footsteps left traces reminiscent of the silent screams of that era. The Zodiac Killer, far more than an ordinary criminal, was inscribed in history as one of existence's most severe trials. As the cold calculations behind his murders emerged as the result of years of research and meticulous analysis, the veil of mystery hidden in the depths of the events transformed into a tragedy etched into collective memory. Operating away from prying eyes and shrouded in uncertainty, this killer left a signature that defied time through the symbols and codes he embedded in his messages. Behind that signature lay an order that transcended reason and challenged the boundaries of logic. In the darkness of night, beneath the flickering lights of street lamps, the incoming correspondences and dispatched letters spoke in a silent language beyond mere uncertainty. The messages penned by the Zodiac Killer were filled with meticulously coded symbols. Every letter, that carried the traces of an unknown genius. The statements published in the media of that time and the official reports indicated that these correspondences were not merely ordinary communications, but rather a labyrinth delving deep into human psychology. The codes used in these letters went far beyond a simple example of cryptography. They signified a complex and striking order that appeared to resonate with the subconscious of society. In every line, the carefully chosen words bore the marks of the fear and unease of that era, silently revealing just how profound the mystery behind this dark story was. The murders committed by the Zodiac Killer resembled a horror story that delved into the deepest labyrinths of the human soul, going far beyond mere cold calculations and measured actions. Although the evidence meticulously gathered at each crime scene had nearly faded with the passage of time, the lingering traces and the details reflected in the documents served as proof of how shattering this horror truly was. The investigations carried out by the police over many years not only sought logical explanations for the events, but also brought to light hints of supernatural or inexplicable elements. Every murder committed in those days was like a puzzle piece waiting to be solved, far more complex than what appeared on the surface of modern society. The recorded details carried traces of a light that seemed to illuminate the dark corners of the inner world, touching the deepest fears of the soul. The societal structure of the 1960s and 1970s was an era dominated by change, uncertainty, and internal conflicts. This dark atmosphere not only inflicted deep wounds within the inner worlds of individuals, but also left indelible marks on the collective memory of society. The very existence of the Zodiac Killer added a distinct dimension to this dark tableau of that time. As the chain of events triggered the latent feelings of fear and unease within the subconscious, the information disseminated by the media became deeply engraved in societal memory. Each event, reflecting the traumas and psychological effects experienced, was inscribed onto the pages of history, and the elements that defined the spirit of that era were revived as if by the uncertainties of the modern age. This environment, where fear, despair, and uncertainty intertwined, came to be regarded as one of the most severe tests of human psychology, as revealed by detailed research and meticulous analysis. Years of detailed investigations and interdisciplinary studies unveiled the multi-layered nature of the traces left by the Zodiac Killer. Information drawn from the printed media records of that era, the evidence meticulously gathered by the police, and the limited capabilities of the technology at the time were reinterpreted using modern analytical methods. In the light of old files, overlooked documents, and forgotten testimonies, the sequence of events was pieced together once more. Each clue formed a part of the whole as the fruit of painstaking research and academic study. In particular, the way the symbols and the correspondences, combined with the psychological pressure of that time, carried the traces of a genius was brought to light through detailed analysis. Every detail uncovered contributed to a picture that, beyond cold calculations, reflected the deepest fears of the human mind and the indescribable curiosity about the unknown. Even though official authorities and scientific circles insisted on logical explanations for the events, various theories echoing in the background ignited deep debates about the identity and motivations of the Zodiac Killer. The documents obtained and testimonies from bygone years occasionally suggested that, beyond scientific explanations, supernatural elements might also be at work. In particular, some of the coded letters contained elements that modern cryptology techniques could not decipher, as if pointing to the existence of an order beyond reason behind the events. Some researchers argued that the Zodiac Killer had become a symbolic figure that resonated with the subconscious of society, while others provided detailed analyses of how the psychological turmoil of that era could trigger such behaviors. The research revealed how the elements reflecting society's dark side left deep marks, both on an individual and collective level. As the commonalities of similar cases throughout history were reinterpreted in the light of modern analysis, clues emerged suggesting just how multi-layered the secrets behind this horror truly were. The period during which these events spread was an era when the media and press were rapidly developing, yet they still lacked the technological capabilities available today. Every news report and published column deepened the psychological impacts and societal reverberations of the events, while simultaneously becoming part of a myth-making process. The striking narratives constructed by the press with limited available data triggered feelings of fear and curiosity within the collective consciousness. When re-evaluated in the light of meticulous research and modern analysis, these narratives unveiled the complex structure underlying the events. The reactions of the human mind when confronted with the unknown, this narrative where emotion, fear, and despair converge, contained elements that resonated with the fundamental concepts of modern psychology. Every word played a significant role in transforming the fear embedded in the media and society's memory of that period into a cultural legend over time. As days, weeks, months, and years passed following the events, the cold traces left by the Zodiac Killer transcended time like silhouettes etched in memory. The missing information in official files, forgotten testimonies, and contradictions among detailed reports revealed just how deep and complex this tragedy truly is. Every new document and every new analysis shed a little more light on the uncertainty lurking behind this dark story. When all this data was combined with modern scientific approaches, it revealed how the elements that defined the spirit of that era touched the deepest labyrinths of the human mind. These cold traces, on one hand, presented elements that challenged the limits of logic, and on the other, formed parts of a horror story that inflicted deep wounds on collective memory. Beyond the words, the terror that resonated in the dark atmosphere of that era was indelibly inscribed into history, intertwined with the mysterious visage of the Zodiac Killer. In every line, in the light of meticulously compiled documents, forgotten testimonies, and modern analyses, the uncertainty hidden behind the events transforms into a journey that challenges the limits of the human mind. As the cold face of these events merged with the myths created by the media, this narrative, which also incorporates the fundamental elements of modern psychology, leaves unforgettable marks both historically and emotionally. In an atmosphere where fear, despair, and the unknown interlace, the inner conflicts, silent screams, and dark secrets of the human soul are almost brought to life once again. This comprehensive scenario, blending the spirit of that era with the data provided by the modern world and imbued with cold realities and inner contradictions in every word, stands as the fruit of meticulous research. From the correspondences to the crime scenes, from media reflections to modern psychological analyses, every element unveils the unknown behind that horror and the forces that challenge the limits of the human mind. Carrying the traces of the past into the future, this narrative presents an unforgettable horror story interwoven with modern data. leaving behind not only cold reports but also the echoes of history's silent screams that touch the deepest fears of the human soul.